Welcome to the Sharon Vidano Show. This show is a show of inspiration, stories, tools, mindset where you can grow and ultimately live a life you love. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. I just want to welcome Lisa Williams. I'm very grateful Lisa has agreed to come in on my show. As if you don't know me already, my name is Sharon Vidano. This is my show. I basically created the show because I wanted to help you help others, and it's slowly evolving to really just helping you live a life you love. So Lisa is going to help you also build your business as well as helping you live a life you love. Lisa Williams is a former corporate executive turned kingdom entrepreneur on a mission to empower 1 million women to hire themselves. After losing her mom and best friend within 10 months, Lisa traded her six-figure salary and cubicle life for a purpose-driven freedom. And now, with 8 income streams and a fierce partnership with the Holy Spirit, she teaches women how to build wealth, give generously, and live abundantly. Lisa is living proof that God can turn grief, taxes, and burnout to kingdom gold. So welcome, Lisa, for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So nice to meet everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. So doing a little bit of research on Lisa as well. And I know that she is this amazing person and entrepreneur also. Can you tell me a little bit about how do you implement the Kingdom Wealth Creator formula? I heard a little bit about that, but if you can tell my audience about that, that would be wonderful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is going to be fun because it's just a small group today with us, which I love smaller groups sometimes. So can I start with do you mind those of you that are, oh, we even have another camera on. I love it. I always tell my team, if you're not naked and you don't have something else going on, then there's favor on your face, friends. So nice to meet you all. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Sharon, and tell you how we met because I think it's a perfect entrance into what I call the Kingdom Wealth Creator within all of you, which is women in fellowship. Um, Raise of hands for those of you that have a best friend, maybe a sister, a mom, a daughter, if you're blessed. I discovered my superpower a couple weeks ago. I was at a retreat for myself, which I hope all of you do retreats for yourself. And I discovered that my superpower was the incredible foundation of love that my mother blessed me with. And the love that poured out from this woman was truly, I believe, the Holy Spirit within her. I am a Jesus lover. By the way, whatever faith lens that you look at life through, I invite you to have some faith lens, whatever that looks like for you. Mine is Jesus, and I've lived it personally through many miracles in my life. So, how do you implement the Kingdom Wealth Formula, Sharon? You're actually doing it right now, right? Because you are God's masterpiece, my sister. I met Sharon at an event locally here in Southern California. We were both at, and how many of you, by the way, are business owners? Out of curiosity, um, business owners, aspiring business owners, perhaps, Barbara? Yeah. Well, Sharon and I obviously are both business owners. We both happen to be at this event. And it's funny, you go to these events and you usually, in this case, we had a booth and we were actually at a retirement community. And you can imagine a lot of the people there, maybe they're actually like in their last chapter of life, right? Some of them maybe a middle chapter, but I find wherever which chapter you're in, I'm kind of in a midlife chapter right now. I believe God has a plan for all your chapters. And it's a huge part of being a kingdom wealth creator is really tapping into what that looks like for you personally. And Sharon and I came by her booth and I got to see her speak. And she has such a beautiful story of actually closing a door, right, Sharon, on your corporate chapter, your high-powered attorney life that you were living. That, tell me, was that was that a life-giving job that you were in, or was there a little bit of energy vampire in that job that you had?
So I did love my job as being a criminal defense attorney. I felt that I was helping people. But at the same time, there was a part of me that felt that it was sucking the life out of me. Part of it was there was time sucks. I couldn't be with my family at times. And there were other times where it was a spiritual sucking from me because I could see many of these clients coming back into the court system. So I would feel that I need to make a difference, but it would have to be before they even get to court or so that they hopefully never end up in court. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
that's basically it.
absolutely. How many of you, I'm curious, Diana, Barbara, Maria, how many of you were very purposeful and knew exactly what you wanted to do for a living when you started working? How many of you? Okay. Diana, do you mind sharing what you do and how you were called to that? I think you have to unmute yourself if you're able to.
Sorry, thank you. I'm a grief coach, and God started training me for this when I was 6. And through my life in several different experiences, um, my dad was a pastor over 50 years, and the part of his ministry, and both he and I enjoyed the most, was dealing with the bereaved family.
Mm.
And when I was 9, my best friend was murdered. And that was my third major grief experience. So God was starting me at a young age.
Wow.
Later, my dad took a leave of absence from the ministry and managed a mortuary for 4 years, and we lived above the mortuary. And I just knew I was supposed to work in the funeral industry because God started training me at such an early age. And I later became a funeral director, and then I retired last October and have now become a grief coach.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So you were, to me, you have a story similar to my mom. My mom was 9 years old and she read Nurse Nancy.
Mm,
And she knew, she literally she didn't know it then, but it was
yeah.
God telling her, this is what you're called to do. And she was a nurse for until she passed away a couple of years
Wow.
ago. And I will tell you, it's the first step in the Kingdom Wealth Formula, by the way, friends. If you want to write this down, there's three phases of the Kingdom Wealth Formula. And by the way, I did not create this formula. I am partners with an incredibly blessed, anointed man named Pedro Adeo. He is my business partner and friend and mentor, and he's the creator of the Kingdom Wealth Formula. And this formula is very simple. It's protect, earn, and multiply. Okay. Now, protection could be very, very simple, something simple as like life insurance, for example. Protect your family financially. God forbid these two hands aren't here
Yeah.
to provide, right? It could be something very simple like that. It could be, I run a financial practice. It could be protect your assets. The market's crazy right now, right? It's
Yeah.
what do we say? The financial industry is a history of booms and busts, right? We know that. We've been on a roller coaster, right? So it could be protect your assets. Now, my favorite thing to talk about actually steps now into the second phases, which is earn and multiply. It could be protect your income. Now, what do I mean by this? Diana was one of actually very few people that I find are doing what they're called to do. Because most people, tell me if this was your path, this was mine. I was trained, you go to school, you get a good job, you will be there
Mm.
for perhaps 10, 20, 30 years. My kids aren't buying into that plan anymore. I don't know about you guys, but this was my generation. And eventually, now you may love what you do. You may just like what you do. You may maybe just pay the bills. Maybe you'll make lots of money. Most people right these days are paying the bills, quite frankly. Unfortunately, it's very rare to do what I did. I'm one of the very few what I call W-2 millionaires because I did find financial freedom as an employee before I stepped into entrepreneurship. Very few people achieve that any longer, by the way.
Mhm.
And you may or may not like who you work with, who you work for. You may or may not like how much time you get to spend with your family, right? This is the map, if you will, that we've all been part of. Raise your hand if this is the map you've been following, um, at least for some of your life, right? Usually when I ask that question, 95% of the room raises their hand, right? Now, there's another part that, for example, Diana is in this room because she's seeking something. She may feel very fulfilled in how she's serving and what she's called to do, but there's still something she's seeking, right? Like I'm curious, for those of you that are in this workshop, why are you here? If anyone's brave enough to answer that, Miss Barbara.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. I think it just resonates with me, which like everybody else, like, why did we even get where we are? And that's how I met Sharon, like everybody else. I was a single mom raising 2 kids, working so much. And I loved what I did. I loved what I did. I was very good at what I did, and I enjoyed it for 45 years. But what was happening, like all of us, towards the end, it was just more hours, and then not missing some stuff with my children. And then as they grew up, to college, I was missing things. And then finally what happened was it was, it was just getting to, just be like too much. I like what I did, but it was like it was never enough hours. And the biggest thing is that I was so blessed that I finally had a grandchild. And I missed a couple of things right from the beginning. And right then, right there, it was that moment that you looked in the mirror and I dug my heels in and I'm like, that is enough. That is enough. That is not going to happen anymore. So I was lucky enough to retire. But the thing that I missed the most in my job, I loved training and I loved mentoring. I think that everybody in their position should be doing that, every director or whatever, but most of them didn't. So most people would try to get into my department because they knew that if they wanted to move up, I was going to be there and mentor them and do that. And that was my favorite part of the job.
Oh, I love that.
And so, and I kind of missed.
What did you do, Barbara, by the way?
I was in healthcare administration, but I did not handle like claims or customer service. I would have lasted a week for that. I did mostly like product development. I did proposals, I did presentations. And then at the end, I did product development.
Okay.
So I really love that.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, Barbara, but the fact that you were in a leadership role and that people saw your department, that is a gifting that you have been blessed with. And this is part of the Kingdom Wealth formula, is first discovering what those gifts are. What are you truly, what do your friends come to you for? Like, oh, Barbara's so good at this. Maria just always knows how to do this, right?
Yeah.
Sharon, if you want this done, this is who you go to, right? That's the first sign, by the way, of this is something that naturally you're called to do. Right. And you're right, Barbara. Something you said struck me, which is the human experience, my friends, is about serving. That is in our DNA. Now, your history, the family of heritage, that you were raised in may have beat it out of you, by the way. It may have stuffed it down so far. You might have a shell up that is protecting you. Every one of us has a healing story that, boy, I so encourage you to journey on, continue to journey on with Sharon, because she can help you with that too, as many of us can. But I tell you what, every one of us is called to serve others.
Yeah.
That's the human DNA. Now, how you are serving is our calling. What are we called to do, right? And this, I promise this does relate to wealth building. Because think about it. If you haven't actually truly found what you're called to do, it's going to be very difficult to build wealth doing it. Number one, because you are constantly chasing your weekend, right? What do we do on the weekends? We usually spend more on the weekends. The human experience right now in corporate America is very paycheck to paycheck. It's rising inflation. It's this raise only got me 2%. It's barely keeping up with inflation, right? Now, don't get me wrong. My mission to empower, equip, and inspire 1 million women to actually hire themselves does not mean I think everyone should have their own business. Because Sharon, wouldn't you agree? The entrepreneurial journey is not for the faint of heart, right? It takes stamina. It takes persistency. It takes incredible belief in yourself and God's big dream for you. Not everyone is equipped for that. However, I believe 100% of women should have more than one income. One is not enough anymore, my friends. So whatever it looks like for you, my invitation to you is that, doesn't it make sense to explore what that's supposed to be for you, right? And usually the business, you can do something very simple. Like a lot of my clients are interested in franchises, for example. I work with a lot of clients that pursue franchises. Franchises could be something very big, like a McDonald's, and it could be something very small, like a network marketing company, for example, right? There's all sorts of ways to produce income. It could be something very big, like I have a client recently that she's buying a postal annex, I think they're called, or something like that in her local town. And I have another client that she's a teacher and she's starting a coaching business for, to serve other teachers in how she does things with teaching, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, but tapping into what really calls to you is so important, because the reality is, if you're doing what God intended for you to do, and you're pursuing it, you're getting in rooms like this. I mean, I want to applaud all of you, because there's a lot of raise of hands for those of you that have friends, by the way, that, you tell them you come to things like this and they get like a blank look on their face. They kind of don't get it. Does anyone else have that? It's very, very difficult, by the way, if you're ever considering an investment. Go ask 3 or 4 people in your community what they think about it. And then guess what I'm going to tell you to do? Do the opposite of what they think. Because unfortunately, friends, we even if you are, an entrepreneur already, and you're thinking differently, you've already made that brave leap, you've hired yourself, you have brought with you, number 1, your employee mindset. And number 2, your outdated wealth building skills. Because entrepreneurs and the 1% build wealth very differently than the 99%. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. I'll give you one example that will put it into perspective. The 401k. Raise of hands for those of you that have a 401k, have had a 401k, worked for a company that offered a 401k. Okay. I too had that, and I bought every I bought into it full board, you know. I invested as much as I possibly could. It's one of the reasons I'm a W-2 millionaire. And I praise God for that. Absolutely. 6 years later, after retiring and knowing what I know now about building wealth differently, I would not have done that. So, for example, just consider the basic 401k. You are giving a third-party administrator your money for, 30 or 40 years, depending when you start it. You can't touch this money till you're 59 and a half. You absolutely can lose. You're paying fees the whole way, the whole time. Whether you win or lose, they're getting paid, right? And then when you retire, when you retire, you are going to have to pay the taxes you haven't paid yet. How does that plan sound to you guys, to you ladies? If you knew what you know now, 2 minutes into this conversation about 401ks, would you have signed up for that investment strategy? And yet you realize that's 99% of employers, that's what they offer, right? So, for example, now that you are pursuing your own thing, whatever that looks like for you, I want to invite you to think about building wealth differently, right? You get to level up your wealth building. The conversations that I have with my clients is about how can we actually take what we've already, accumulated, how can we make it tax-free? How can we actually earn and multiply in the double digits? If you have a financial advisor, by the way, most of what we teach you is entirely the opposite of them, by the way. Did you know that the average financial advisor, Sharon, do you have an estimate of what the average financial advisor makes?
No, I have. I'm assuming 100,000 around there, maybe.
Even less, believe it or not, 85,000. So isn't it interesting that most families, if they have a financial advisor, they are actually seeking financial advice about wealth building from people that have never built wealth. Now, if you are like some, I had 2 financial advisors. They worked with high net worth clients, right? Why did I have 2? Lisa, why did you have 2? Well, because I was a W-2 employee. There was very little they could actually help me with outside of my typical way of investing, until I moved my money. Does that make sense? So I tried them out for like 5 or 6 years. Unfortunately, both very nice men, by the way. I think more women get to be financially, studious and equipped. Both nice men doing what they knew how to do, but they didn't teach me a thing, and they told me the exact same thing that everybody else was saying. Again, what did we remember about the 99%? Most are not building wealth. They're doing it, the 1% is doing it very different. So, if you have a financial advisor now, I'm glad you have someone that is a strategist in your life. But I would encourage you to hire yourself, because that is one strategy that if women decide to be their own financial advocates, we are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. Did you know that we are going to possess 2/3 of the wealth by 2030, ladies? Now, my question is, are you ready for that responsibility? Are you ready for that responsibility? Most of us are not, right? So again, but isn't it beautiful, the world we live in today, right? The communities like Sharon's that we are blessed to be part of. God gave us the same brain that these financial gurus, so to speak, have, right? And quite frankly, Wall Street is not serving Main Street right now, and it hasn't for years. So I'm very blessed to be part of a disruption, in the financial industry. And so the Kingdom Wealth Formula, let's circle back to this: protect, earn, and multiply. If you decide to make a commitment to yourself to up level your game in your financial stewardship, how you are, how intimate are you with your money, for example? If I believe, and we teach this in our community, that God uses money, the thing he cares the least about, as practice for his people, the thing he cares the most about. So, if for you coaches out there right now that are maybe listening to this, maybe, the number one thing I hear coaches say is that, oh, I don't know where to get my clients. The clients, it's like they're not on my calendar. I've gone another week and I haven't had an engaging conversation, right? I actually ask them, how closely do you monitor your finances? And it may sound very silly, but there is a direct correlation between how intimate you are with your money and how much God will trust you with his people. There is an absolute correlation. So, I don't believe personally in budgets, but I believe in direction of my assets and my money to better steward what God has blessed me with. And a very simple trick I'll give you all. Most people sitting in their home, picture there's a long line of people out their front door, and the first person is maybe their mortgage or their rent. Then it's, I find these days the second bill that gets paid is their phone bill because they don't want to lose access to their social world, right? Or their internet. Then maybe their car payment, gas bill, you get the point, right? Long line of people. Now, the 99%, what they do is they pay all those people first. And then they pay the most important bill, which is the Lisa bill, the Barbara, the Maria, Diana, Sharon's future, our future bill, which is saving for ourselves, putting our assets to work on our behalf, right? So think about if we just reverse that, right? If we just simply reverse that, we repurpose those first fruits and we put it, I personally recommend tithing first to whatever charity, whatever church, whatever group that you are called to serve. I have a client that she gives scholarships every year to deserving youth in her community. I have so many generous clients. One of my missions is to create a tribe of seven-figure givers, not earners, but givers. Imagine if we can put more money in the hands of good women doing good things. How powerful, what an impact we can make. And truly, friends, this is available to any of us. You are God's masterpiece, Barbara. Diana, you are his masterpiece. Sharon, Maria, you are his masterpiece. He created all of us with this abundance and this ability. And it's a matter of stepping into it more fully and accepting it, right?
Right. And I want to add,
So,
when you, if I may interject, the when you're tithing and you're giving, it really, really just it gives us such a loving feeling and an expansion feeling that actually it just stimulates, God loves the giving, and then it always comes back in many, many ways. So yes, I just wanted to add that. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And absolutely, I heard a story last week. It was about a woman that she was considering suicide. And she wrote a note to her family, and she said she lives in the Bay Area, and she was within walking distance of the Golden Gate Bridge. And she wrote on this letter, the reasons that she was planning to take her own life. And she said, if one person smiles at me between now and when I get to the bridge, I won't jump. And my friends, she jumped. She jumped. Because not one person in that whole community, this big, bustling community, smiled at her. So, generosity it doesn't necessarily mean money. Generosity is the spirit that you bring to a room. It is your beautiful smile, right? How many of us are parents, by the way? How many of you have children? Barbara, I know you do because you have a grandchild. I'll tell you a story. Maria has 4, and I want to encourage you, Sharon. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. How much time do we have, by the way?
I think you have about 5 minutes, and then we'll start
Okay,
wrapping it
super.
up. Yeah.
This is a good way to kind of bring things around. You know, there's not there's the bigger purpose that we all are called to do. I'm sure it's very overused in my opinion, but I'm sure most of you have discovered or tapped into why you're doing what you're doing, pursuing what you're doing, right? Now, there's one level of understanding when it comes to us as individuals. Why are we called to do something specific? Our business, our calling to serve. But I want you to take a minute and consider um, when your child gets to this place where they are feeling burned out and busted and broken, because the corporate America system is not designed for people to thrive, my friends. It is not. Unfortunately, Barbara, your position that you were in is a very rare case for most people. I was in a Bible study a couple days ago, and one of my girlfriends, she has been praying for her daughter for months to get out of the toxic work environment she's in. This is what I am encouraging all of you, because you're on this call, you're pursuing something in your life that is outside of the map of corporate America, right? And if you have young people in your life, if you either have children, grandchildren, young people, you've seen a young person, right? God is calling you to step into your calling because they need you. They need you to do that. They need you to be the example to them of what's possible. They need, Barbara, your grandchildren will be watching you. My mother, oh my gosh, my mother. She retired as soon as my oldest was born. He's 25. He was born 2 pounds, 14 ounces. He was not supposed to live. He is one of my miracles in my life. My mom retired the minute he was born, and she could because she had a pension. My friends, most people don't have that anymore. So how much more important is it for us to equip ourselves and equip our next generation to build wealth differently? Because if we don't, they're going to be in real trouble, right? Not only are they going to be unhappy, which is the worst thing, but they're not going to be fulfilling the God's calling in their life if they continue down the path that we have all been following.
And if I may add,
So,
if you answer
yeah.
your calling that God has put that desire in your heart, you can't but not be successful and abundant. So
it's not possible. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not possible. And so, as we wrap up, there's a few things that I'm gonna share with you that I will put in the chat. So first of all, we have a workshop series that goes deeper. It's called Reimagine the American Dream. Sharon's actually going to be our guest next week. So it's the next one is Tuesday, the 13th of May, and we're going to run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. So I will put that link right now in the chat for you to register. Register, show up for yourself, pass it on to your girlfriends, pass it on to your children. If we don't need to reimagine the American dream, I don't know what else is going on, because we get to do that for ourselves. I was just on a series with a woman in Ireland, and she says, Lisa, it's the same in Ireland. We need to reimagine the Ireland dream too. Isn't it funny? We're the only country that there's a a dream after it, right? So definitely, come and join our workshop. For Sharon specifically, I'm going to offer, for those of you brave enough to do it, I am going to offer a session with me. And that is, the session is called Reimagining Your American Dream. Now, I do not want you to schedule this appointment if you're not willing to be vulnerable. If you're not willing to just lay things on the table and share the good, the bad, and the ugly about your finances, how you're pursuing what you're pursuing. If you have a financial advisor already, great. I love partnering with financial advisors because, quite frankly, the things that I share with our clients, financial advisors are not doing. So if you want to reimagine your wealth building, this is a great opportunity for you to do that. And part of it, quite frankly, friends, is sometimes I meet with someone, no matter how much they love the plan we create for them, they actually never make enough money to actually implement the plan. So one of my favorite things to do is actually show people how they can take their skills, their blessings, and actually create more income in their lives. How many families do you think could benefit from an extra couple $1,000s a month, in your own neighborhood? Pretty much all families, if you're living in any day America like I am, it's the common theme on the street is, man, did you see, what are the tariffs doing to your business? Man, did you see the price of eggs, right? It's just, what family couldn't benefit, what family couldn't benefit from? Imagine instead of, taking the one vacation every 2 years, and your boss literally calling you while you're on vacation about the things that they needed you to do. You actually took a vacation every quarter, and you blessed your next generation with the holidays. I so love the life that I have, and I want others to experience that. That is my deepest passion. So it's been my absolute blessing to be with you ladies, Miss Diana and Barbara and Maria. I hope I get to meet all of you personally. And at the very least, come and watch Sharon share more of her brilliance next week as she's a guest in our community.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'm putting in the chat, I know that you have a free gift for the audience as well. It was the 10 tips that you have. I'm sure
Yes.
that can really enlighten them. So thank you so much for coming on the show. You've been so inspiring. Love hearing your wisdom and hearing your story. And I'm sure this is serving everyone, all the audience. And I'll join you in that mission of yours to empower women. So, and
Yes.
it's joining in that mission to empower women.
Let's lock virtual arms right now, ladies, right?
Yes, very good. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you everyone for attending. We are blessed by you being here as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Bye, ladies.
Thank you for coming to the Sharon Vidano Show. I hope you had an amazing time, and I hope this episode served you. My intention is to help you live a life you love. If you love this show, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, and I'll see you in the next episode.